What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fight Out podcast. We're going to be breaking down this weekend's upcoming Fight Night card, headlined by the Reaper, Robert Whittaker, against Renier the Ritter. Middleweight main event. Quite a decent card, to be fair, and it's also at UK time. So us Fight Owls haven't got to be Fight Owls. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I actually fell asleep last week for the Dustin Poirier card, and I woke up at the co-main event. And then I had to go back and watch all the fights after the fact, and that sometimes happens in the UK, especially when you're having a drink and trying to stay up. That is my lesson learned. So let's dive into the card. I won't go through the full card this week because I feel like it's not boring, but it's not the most stacked of cards from start to finish. Let's be completely honest about it. So we're going to pick out a few fights to talk about and kind of go from there. Now, there's a few interesting ones on the card. Amanda Ribas against Tabitha Ritchie, I think, is a nice kind of builder for your bet, because I think Amanda Ribas at 8 to 15 is really good value. It's almost, I know it's not Sky High, it's like 1 to 2, but a lot of the UFC odds nowadays are 1 to 5 and 1 to 6, and I think Amanda Ribas gets that quite handily. I just don't think Tabitha Ritchie has really got the answers for it. Probably stinks of a 2-1 on the judges' scorecards, to be honest. 29-28, sorry. Moving further down the card, there's a very interesting matchup for me between Bryce Mitchell and Said Nurmagomedov. Now, Bryce Mitchell is a bit of an anomaly. Let's be honest. He's a bit out there. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's definitely not afraid to kind of change it up. He's moved down to bantamweight. It makes it very, very interesting. And Bryce has got a bit of an interesting style, I think, where obviously it is wrestling heavy and stuff like that. Now, Saeed Nurmagomedov is he just got beat by the guy who fought last week, Vinicius Oliveira, who kind of got broad check a little bit, if you ask me. No, I weren't the most impressed by him, I'm not gonna lie. When I went back through, I thought, not fraud check, because obviously you got the win, but I thought he was going to do a lot more damage. And maybe I underestimated Kyler Phillips, but yeah, we'll leave that one there. And I mean, other than that, he's also been beat by Jonathan Martinez, who, he's not a world beater or anything like that, where you're looking at him going, wow, he's getting beat by really, really top level opposition. Now, Bryce is obviously not undefeated himself, but when you look at who he's been beat by, Ilya Taporia, obviously that's aged absolutely amazingly. Josh Emmett, where he absolutely got starched with one punch. And Gene Silva, who's on a tear now. Now, he's beat Dan Ige, he's beat Cron Gracie, beat Edson Barbosa, he's beat Andre Philly. He's beat a lot of people. And obviously they're all at featherweight, and this is going, so you're not knowing how the weight's going to affect them. But he's fought the higher level opposition, and he's come through quite a few of them unscathed. I think Bryce is good value for money, at close to even this week, but we don't know how the weight's going to affect them. Now, moving on, we've got Nikita Krylov against Gushkov. I think Krylov gets that quite handily, to be honest. 8 to 15 again, quite decent odds, because there is a lot of 1 to 6s and 1 to 5s and things like that. Talking of the 1 to 6s, we've got Shara Bullet fighting again. I know a lot of people are saying he's been for a check, but I think he's on the come up, and maybe he's taking a little bit of a back step in terms of how fast he was going. I still think he is, legit, really good contender. He's 1 to 6. Not even worth it. There's no odds on a TKO slash KO, but obviously I do think he's going to get the win this upcoming weekend. Now, we're at the co-main event now, which is Peter Yan versus Marcus McGee, and I'll be honest with you, I think this is a tough fight for Peter Yan, or Piotr Yan. Marcus McGee is 10-1, I believe, is it? Is it 10-1 or 11-1? Let me just check that before I say something incorrect. Yeah, he's 10-1. He got beat, outside of the UFC. He's come to the UFC. He is unbeaten in the UFC. He's had 4 fights. He's only went to a decision once in his most recent fight against Jonathan Martinez. And Piotr Yan's been on a little bit of not a slip and slide, but he's been a little bit of a miss lately. And we've had 2 really good wins in recent memory, against Song Yadong and against Davidson Figueiredo was the other one, wasn't it? Before that, he did go through a little bit of a murderer's row. Aljo, Sean O'Malley, and then Marab. So, he's fighting really high level competition, but a 10-1 up and coming prospect is nothing to be kind of trifled with. And these odds are very, very wide. Piotr Jan's a 1-4 favourite, and Marcus McGee is 11-4, nearly 3-1 for the underdog. And everyone knows I love underdogs on this channel, I'll be honest with you. Marcus McGee is a very tempting bet for me because, especially with this card where there's not a lot you can really fancy as an underdog, to be honest. Some of the odds are quite wide, and you're like, yeah, I do fancy him to win. Marcus McGee is one that's throwing a little bit of a spanner in the works for me, and I'm very tempted to go for him, and I think I am going to go for him. That might change by the time Fight Night rolls around, but I am for now going for him. Obviously the main event, Robert Whittaker against Renier the Ritter. A very interesting matchup. Renier the Ritter kind of reminds me a bit of Dricus du Plessis. Not necessarily in the way he fights, but the way I keep doubting him, and he keeps coming through. I doubted him against Meerschaert, I doubted him against Kevin Holland, and against Bo Nickel, I kind of doubted him again, because I do favour Bo Nickel going into it, but I was saying it was a tough fight. But Robert Whittaker's a problem, man. Even still, Robert Whittaker is a problem. He's obviously the last fight he fought Kamzat, broke his teeth, got beat, all that kind of stuff. But when he beat Alaskerov, when he beat Paulo Costa, he then, before that, he lost to Dricus du Plessis, I think. And before that, I think he lost it. No, he didn't lose to him, did he? Fought Marvin Vettori, beat him, and he lost to Izzy. So he was kind of win-loss. And then he won a couple, and then he fought Kamzat, Kamzat's a problem. And if he gets a hold of you and he's on your back, he's a real, real problem. I think this could be a fight of the night kind of fight with Robert Whittaker and Renier the Ritter. I'm just favouring Whittaker at the minute. I think the experience might come and play a part, and I think Renier the Ritter is not underestimating him, but I think he might be coming in on the back of these wins. He's unbeaten in the UFC, but he's been beat a few times outside the UFC. He went on a bad skid at one point outside of the UFC, where you can't really judge that level of opposition. And then in the UFC, he's won his 3 fights. So I'm saying Robert Whittaker, the experience is kind of coming through on this one, which brings us to a 6-fold for our bet this week. So last week, by the way, we had a few dog winners. We had Paulo Costa that we called. We called it on one bet. We did say Chase with the Reincarnate, forgot his name, Kopolov, on the actual main podcast production show. But yeah, there was a few underdogs that I can't think of now at the top of my head where we nearly had the bet up, but we didn't quite. So this week we want to come back with a winner. So we've got Amanda Ribas, we have got Bryce Mitchell, we have got Nikita Krylov, we have got Shara Magomedov, which I would do by KO/TKO if the odds did come out. I'm going for Marcus McGee to be Piotr Jan as a very controversial one. And I'm going for Robert Whittaker to beat Renier the Ritter, which is a 30-1 6-fold. So look, if you don't like the Marcus McGee shout, you take that off. It comes down to an 8-1 5-fold. You put Piotr Jan on it, it'll go to 10. Yeah, 9.5, 10. So, there's a few options there. There's definitely money to be made on this weekend's card. UK time, I'm going to be watching it, tweeting about it, all that good stuff. So let me know if you agree down below. Let me know if you don't agree. Give me some spit. Let's get a conversation going. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.